Welcome to Aging Well, the Great Disruptor. My name's Colin Milner, and I'll be presenting to you, what the opportunity is around aging well and how it is disrupting our society. But to set the stage, what I'd like to do is focus part one on two simple questions. One, can we live longer? The answer to this we now know is yes. At the turn of the 1900s, the average life expectancy was 47 years of age. Today, we have added, on average, depending on what country you are living in, 30 years of additional life. Now, we also know from recent research in 2018 that at the age of 50, we can add an additional 14 years of life or live 14 years longer if we are women and 12.2 years longer if we are men by simply doing 5 things. This is 1, never smoking, 2, exercising 30 minutes a day, 3, having a normal BMI, 4, eating a healthy diet, and 5, consuming a moderate level of alcohol. So, yes, we can live longer, and we are living longer. So much so that 42% of people a couple years ago that were born in 1933 will or did turn 85. I was curious about this when my father passed away, and I did some research to find out that, yes, there's a significant percentage of us that are actually living longer. The question is, are we living better? This is my 109-year-old grandmother, by the way, Merle O'Hara, and I can attest to what happens when you live better. You can actually have an incredible quality of life. So, with that said, now the question is, can we live better longer? Well, that is where the opportunity is today. That is what this whole presentation is about, and the subsequent other 2 presentations. So let's dive into that and take a closer look at that. For me, all of this started in 1994 when Tufts University came out with a study that showed it didn't matter how old you were, that you could reverse a significant amount of strength loss by simply exercising on a regular basis to regain your strength. And you could regain that within a short period of time. The wonderful part about that was that set in motion a movement where individuals started to embrace their potential. And over the years, we have had the physical activity and health guidelines that have come out from the U.S. Surgeon General that has reinforced that message, and then the active aging framework from the World Health Organization that once again reframed that message. And we've seen many other things along the way that have not only reinforced the message, but provided a new view of what that looks like. So much so that the most recent MIT technology review, or not the most recent, one of them in the last year, came out with the headline, "Old Age is Over." But like a good lawyer, you want to look in the small print, and it said, if you want it to be. And what they meant by that is that it's all about our lifestyle, what we do, and how we respond. And by doing so, we are opening up new and interesting industries to provide solutions to help people accomplish that. And why are we doing all of that? Well, the reality is today we are, yes, living better. Compared to 30 years ago, men and women aged 75 to 80 actually have better muscle strength, walking speed, reaction time. They are actually better with their verbal fluency, reasoning, working of the memory that people at the same age had 30 years ago. So we are at the stage or at the forefront of what I call the aging well revolution. In the past couple decades, I would say we have been in the longevity revolution where we have seen all these products and services come out that have touted that they will help us live longer. Now, it's not about just living longer, it's about living longer better. With that in mind, what we've seen all of this research show is one simple thing. We have much greater human potential than we ever thought. The question is, will we embrace it? Will we actually dig in and discover it? And will we then utilize it? The choice is within our hands, young or old, in regards to addressing this. So with that said, what we need to do is we need to change our mindset as we embrace this new opportunity to discover our human potential. That's why we're starting to see the language around aging change, where Sarah Harper, the director of Oxford Institute on Aging, now believes that we should be looking at people in their 70s and 80s, not as old people, but as active adults, and that we don't turn old until we need ongoing assistance and are frailer. So if most of us are active adults and most of us are being told that we can embrace our human potential, the question then becomes is, how is aging well going to disrupt society? Well, think about this for a second. If I have just told you that you are no longer old, that you can now do the things that you want to do, what would you do? Well, the reality is you'd probably try and do them. So what we see today is that the next normal, or the new normal, is that the unattainable, things that were actually once thought just for the young, are now actually becoming highly attainable for people of all ages. And all ages is just that. It doesn't matter. We see individuals who are, running the marathon at the age of 100. We see senior athletes in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We see individuals starting up new companies. We see individuals that are traveling the globe, irrespective of age. Age, for many, is just a number. That sounds contrite in a way, but the reality is, most of it is in our mind. And yes, some of it is in our body. So what is the end result of all of this? Well, the end result is that in the second part of this presentation, we're going to talk about how all of this is actually creating new models. What are those new models? What are the rules actually going to be behind those new models that will guide them? What kind of policies will you have to think about to create these new models at a governmental level, at an organizational level, and on a personal level? What new industries will all of this create? And how can you take advantage of this to advance your career, to look for new opportunities? What kind of programs, depending on what kind of organization and what places you are reaching out to, will there be? Will there be more programs delivered at senior centers, or more programs delivered out into society that will help us to age well? What kind of products will need to be created to help us accomplish this? And will we actually consider all the challenges and the opportunities associated with population aging when we are creating those products? And then also, what kind of education are we going to actually need to have and create to fulfill these new models? The world is a new place, and there are new opportunities. And what kind of environments are we going to want to create to age well in? Are we going to create well buildings? Are we going to create more nature that we can take part in and spend time in? All of this is in front of us, and we will discuss this in part 2 as we will in part 3. Depending on who you are and depending on what you are expecting out of this presentation, the question for you is, what do you embrace and where do you go from here? If you are a younger individual, what does this mean for your career? If you are an older individual, what does this mean for your lifestyle and your career? So let's take a look at at that in section number 2. But before we do, ask yourself 3 questions, or we'll ask you 3 questions to answer. Number 1, can you name 2 things men can do at the age of 50 to live 12.2 years longer? Number 2, do people 75 to 80 have worse muscle strength than 30 years ago? Think about that. And what does that mean for them, by the way? Or for us? Number 3, when should someone be deemed old? Please answer those 3 questions before you move to the next section. I look forward to seeing you in the next section. Thank you.